Hey, welcome. Today we're going to build a really simple toolkit of essential English phrases. My goal is to get you presenting charts and graphs with way more confidence and clarity. So let's just dive right in. You know that feeling, right? You've got this amazing chart packed with data, but the second you stand up to talk about it, your mind just goes blank. Yeah, we've all been there. And that is exactly what we're going to fix today. All right, first things first, the opener. How you start is so important. You've got to make sure your audience knows exactly what they're looking at right from the get-go. Let's see how to nail that. Okay, so think of these as your building blocks. You could go formal and direct, with something like, the title of this chart is, or you could be a bit more relaxed and say, let's take a look at this graph of. It really just depends on who you're talking to. But the main thing is, all of these phrases get everyone on the same page and they do it fast. But look, if you're going to remember just one phrase, let it be this one. This chart shows. It's just so simple and effective. It's professional, it's direct, and it just cuts right through any confusion, pointing everyone straight to the main point. It's the perfect way to kick off the real substance of your presentation. Okay, so you've introduced your chart. What's next? Well, now it's time to tell the story. Because your data isn't just a bunch of static points, right? It moves, it changes, it has a narrative. Let's get into the language you need to bring that story to life. This is where using really dynamic language is absolutely key to keeping people hooked. I mean, instead of just saying something flat like, it went up, you can say, there has been a steady increase, or the number rose sharply. See the difference? Those words paint a way clearer, more interesting picture for your audience. Let's zoom in on that one phrase for a sec. Rose sharply. It's that second word, sharply, that does all the heavy lifting. Was the increase slow? Was it sudden? Words like sharply or gradually or significantly, those are the details that really make your data breathe. And here's something people often forget. No change can be just as big of a story as a huge change. Pointing out that the trend remains stable can be a really powerful insight, especially if everything else was going crazy. All right, so we've introduced the chart, we've described the trends. Now we're going to level up. Let's talk about the connection. This is where you start comparing different pieces of data to uncover those deeper insights. Making comparisons is what adds all the depth to your analysis. Suddenly, you're not just reading off numbers anymore. You're actually interpreting them. So using phrases like compare to last year or in contrast X helps you show the relationships between the data points. It really reveals the story behind the story. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When you use a structure like, while sales in Asia increased, those in Europe remained flat, you're creating this really powerful contrast that's easy for people to remember. It's just one simple sentence, but wow, it can tell a pretty complex story. Look, any chart is going to be packed with information, right? It's your job to be the guide, to direct your audience's attention. So now it's time for the takeaway, how to shine a big, bright spotlight on what really, truly matters. I love this analogy. Think of these phrases as your verbal highlighter. When you say something like, what stands out here is, or one important thing to notice is, you're literally telling your audience, hey, look here, this is the most important part, don't miss it. I especially love this phrase, what stands out here is. It's just so powerful. It's a really confident way to grab everyone's attention and let them know you're about to drop the single most important insight from that entire chart. Okay, we're at the home stretch. We've made it to the final and honestly, the most critical step, the wrap-up. You've laid out all the data and now you have to answer that big, so what question. You've got to give your conclusion. This is what ties it all together. A strong conclusion is your final interpretation of the data. Phrases like, this suggests that, or overall, the trend indicates, are what elevate you from just being a data reporter to being a true data analyst. This is how you leave your audience with a clear, lasting message. And if you really want to stick the landing with an authoritative finish, this phrase is your best friend. It takes all that complex data and boils it down into one single, clear idea. When you say, from this chart, we can conclude that, you're stating your final take with total confidence. There's no room for doubt. So, there you go, a complete toolkit for talking about pretty much any chart or graph out there. You've got the phrases to open it up, describe what's happening, compare the data, highlight the key points, and wrap it all up with a solid conclusion. The only question left is, what amazing story is your next chart going to tell?